Hey guys, I wanted to talk to you today about the science of getting rich. There is actual science to getting rich, and anybody and everybody uses the law of attraction or law of vibration. And if they follow that process and follow the laws related to that, it's by mathematical certainty that you will be rich. And so the obvious question is, well, what are these laws? And so that's what I wanted to discuss today, because it's critical that one understands these, because it's kind of like, it's not luck that people get rich. Everything that was created, everything that you visually see around you started with a thought and went through a process to get it into its physical form. And these are universal laws, and it's undeniable, undisputed. This is the process. So one, it's like playing the game of Monopoly. If you want to win the game, you've got to know what the rules are. So today I want to discuss with you those universal laws. So the one kind of overarching universal law is that energy is, which basically means we're all energy, we're all matter, we're all just vibrating at different frequencies, but we're all matter. And the principal law around that is that it's basically the law of attraction, is that you attract into your life what you're on a vibrational match with. So it's all about getting on a vibrational match with the thing that you want in your life. And so everything that was created that you see around you is at a different state of vibration. So that's the kind of principal law, and then there's 7 sub laws that go under that I want to run through with you now. So the first law is the law of perpetual transmutation, and what that means is that energy or matter is going into and out of form all the time. What that means is that the energy is all around you, and when you bring it into physical form is when you get onto the same vibrational level of it. So that it's an understanding that nothing was created, nothing's destroyed. Everything already is in some form. And all we're trying to do is bring it into the physical form. And that's what perpetual transmutation is, that the universe is always moving things in and out of form. So that's kind of the first law. The second law is the law of relativity, which is a very powerful law. And with all these laws, you either using them to work against you or using them to work for you. So let's talk about working for you. So the first one is that you understand that it's always, perpetual transmutation, that matter is always moving in and out of form. You realize that the universe is there, and everything that you want is in the universe. And your job is to pull it into a physical form so that you actually hold it in your hand. The second thing, as I said, was relativity. And what this law is about is that everything is relative. So someone with, let's say they've got a $20,000 debt problem, compared to someone who has a $3 million debt problem, the $20,000 debt problem is like, it's a no-brainer. It's not really a problem. And so I guess what this is all about is always looking at what's happening in your life from a different perspective. It's like looking at that situation and saying, well, is there a different way that I can look at the situation? And to use this law very powerfully is to be able to, essentially what this is just, as I said, looking at a different perspective. And, I know I've been in a personal situation where I thought I had a big problem, and I went and shared it with someone, and they told me about someone else's big problem. And suddenly I actually felt embarrassed about my small problem, basically. So I guess when you understand that there's always going to be people that are, further along or better off than you, and always people that are worse off than you. And so what this allows you to do is kind of put your pity in the bin quickly and get on with it. And so it's really about just looking at things from a different point of view and just putting everything into relative terms, so that you're constantly focusing on the good and not, stuck in pity, I guess. Then the next one is the law of vibration. And this basically, I hinted on it just now, which is the law that everything is vibrating at different frequency levels. And it's kind of, the simplest way to explain it is that, if you want to get onto a certain radio station, you have to tune onto their specific frequency to be able to hear them. If you're trying on all these different frequencies that are not the one that's theirs, you're never going to connect to that. And so it's understanding that, I guess the law of vibration is that everything is moving and that everything's vibrating at different levels. And so it's important for you to, if you want to be a person that's earning $1 million, you've got to be thinking, talking, speaking, walking and acting like a person earning $1 million. You've got to get on the same vibrational frequency of that. If you're stuck as a person earning $60,000 and you're stuck in fear and worry and doubt and all of those kind of things, that's not a person who's earning $1 million. So it's all about frequency. So essentially, the top tip out of this is it's all about managing your state, which is how you physically feel each day. It's your state of mind, which is ultimately gets to your state of body, how you're feeling. So that's the law of vibration. Then there's the law of polarity, which talks about there's an opposite to everything. So where there's an up, there's a down. Where there's an in, there's an out. Where there's a hot, there's a cold. And what's very powerful about this law is that by virtue of that, any problem that you have in your life, or a situation that you've got, inherent in the problem is the solutions. If there's a problem, there's a solution. So there can't be a problem without a solution. There's always an opposite to it. And so the quickest way to use this as a benefit for you is to always be saying, well, what's the opposite of this? What would be the direct opposite of that? And so instead of looking at problems, you're like, well, what would be the solution? What could be the 5 solutions that I could look at? So this one's really around understanding that there's always an opposite to everything. And then the next law is the law of rhythm. And this is about, the sun comes up and then the sun comes down. The ocean goes out and the ocean comes in. And there's these natural rhythms that happen. So there's seasons. So, after spring becomes summer and then there's autumn. And so they all follow each other. And how to use this law really powerfully is to understand that everything is rhythm. So if you're having a bad time, good times ahead of you. So you know that if you're in a bit of a rut, you know that there's, by the natural law of rhythm, there's going to be better times ahead. And so what this does is very powerfully allows you to not sit in pity and waddle in worry and doubt and so on and so forth. It's just allows you to move very quickly, knowing that, okay, let's look for the next season that's coming. It's the law of the, if you understand that, the ocean, the tide goes out, and with certainty the tide is going to come back in, and it's exactly the same in your life. And so the next one, second last one, is the law of cause and effect, and this is very powerful. This is really a law that states that, an example would be, let's say when you're younger, you're thrashing your body and you're abusing your body, and that's the cause, and the effect is that later in life you're going to be affected by that. So your health might be deteriorate later in life. So essentially what this law is saying is that every cause, putting something in, is going to create an effect down the track. So a positive way to look at this is that even in your business, is that you're going along and you're doing all these actions, and you're like, well, those are the cause, you're doing the things, but the effect, the result that you want is not there immediately. You just know that as long as you do those things, there's going to be a reaction coming on the other side. And so this also is just really understanding that there's a gestation period. So, things don't, like a baby, it's not, maybe it's not the wrong example, you don't have sex and then the baby pops out 5 minutes later. There's a period in which it needs to form, and then eventually the baby comes out. And so understanding this is that, as you're doing, whether it's your business or whatever it is that as long as you keep putting in, the results will come out of it. And that's, that's from a positive point of view, but also from the other side is that if you keep abusing your body, you know that you're going to pay for it down the track. So it's really just understanding that cause and effect law. And then the last law is the law of gender, which basically says that there is, male and female energy. And I guess just a kind of simple way to put this is like males are very much do, and females are more nurture and understanding. And so if you look at like nature, for example, a seed, you might put a seed into the ground. The seed is the male energy, and the earth, the soil, which allows it to grow, is the female energy. So it's just understanding that there's a beautiful thing between male and female energy, or genders. This is a beautiful thing that in the world. So those are basically the 7 secondary laws, but the overall arching law is that the energy is that the universe has no limitations, and that if you use your energy and vibration, you can attract anything to you. And we'll talk in some other videos about the process to do that. But it's just understanding those laws and then really thinking about it and making sure that you're working with those laws, not against those laws. And, just in closing, it'd be like there's a law of gravity, for example. And if you went up to a 40-story building and you stepped off the top, you're going to fall straight down and more than likely, possibly, definitely die. And it happens every single time. It's not like luck, or maybe one time it won't happen, or maybe you'll get lucky. It's not. It's the law. It's, you step out, gravity's going to take over, and you're going to hit the deck at the bottom. And that's the same with these laws. And so it's really important to understand them, because if you using these laws, if you're not using these laws in the right way and you're going against them, it's literally with mathematical certainty that you won't be rich, because you're not going, using the process or following these laws. So, yep, I hope that helps. Those are the 7 universal laws, and we'll see you soon. Bye.